The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to the show. It's brought to you in association with Levi's Solicitors, who will offer you a 10% discount on your legal fees at levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. Do the thing, Michael.
Well, I've got a question for you, actually, because I've forgotten. Do you have to be in Leeds to use them?
Oh, hell no. No, you can use them all over the place and across the UK. Do you know why that is?
They're willing to travel, very accommodating.
You can do online appointments, you can do like video conference calls, which is great. And there's an online booking system as well, so you can do that too. Think of somewhere in the UK you could use them for their many, many services. I'll give you one for Dingwall.
Good. Durham.
Royal Porth.
Thank you, Moscow. Excellent. Just say the three favourites, just so everyone gets the
wills of probate, the conveyancing.
Yeah, dispute resolution.
The big three.
Yeah, the big three as they're known. Stuff for your business, stuff for you personally. Please do support them because they're great. They support us. levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. It is Dan, it's Michael, it's Moscow here on the weekly show where we dive into the world of Leeds United news and crown some heroes and villains and look forward to another football match. They keep coming, don't they, this season?
I'm afraid they do.
Yeah, they do.
They'll stop soon, I'm pretty sure.
And you can pay to watch it next season. You can pay more than this season to watch it. Potentially, if we go down, you don't have to.
And the cost per game plummets, doesn't it, if we go down? So, good.
Looking after us in many ways, aren't they, by getting relegated? Season tickets, 10% across the board increase. How do you feel about it?
You're the king of cost cutting. I don't know why you're looking at anybody else.
I mean, my 20-year season ticket, I did look this up. I've still got 2 more years left on it. So
still going, that is it?
Still going. I mean, in one respect, you kind of go, all right, well, it's sort of expected, but you also go, everything's expensive and we're shit. So don't expect people to be grateful about it.
There you go then, yeah. I mean, I understand the business case for it because it's that stark reminder, isn't it, that this is the Premier League and Leeds United is a business. It's not a charity. There's a business case for it because I'm sure their costs have increased, but I'm not here to make the business case for Leeds United. They've done that on the website. Didn't tweet it out, though. I noticed that at the time.
I've enjoyed it. How every tweet since people have been in the replies going, tweet about the season tickets, you cowards, which is quite pleasing.
Yeah, I'm not here to make the business case for Leeds United. I'm here to say, don't increase the cost of anything.
I'm glad that everyone at Leeds United had a 10% pay rise, though. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good for them.
I mean, the business case doesn't really massively stack up anyway when you take the amount of money that they'll get from this 10% increase and set it against the amount of money that comes in from broadcasting and Premier League and everything else anyways. It's pretty much a drop. And then set it against the amount of money that they shovel into the pockets of the players. For example,
were you going to pick a victim then?
Yeah, I was thinking, but like, just in general, it's just the whole thing is sort of quite a ludicrous situation. It's like, on the one hand, what difference? Well, no, it's all one hand. It's just one big hand. We don't need 2 hands for this. What difference does 10% on season tickets make compared to the amount of money that is given to name any player and sell them? You'd probably get more money from just like letting a player leave. So it's kind of, where's the real advantage in just scalping another 10% out of the fan base? Leeds will not be, I think it's important, Leeds won't be unique in this. I'm sure every club in the Premier League will all be putting their prices up as well, but it is and they will all be saying that it's the cost of living crisis, or the cost of putting a game on crisis, cost of keeping the floodlights on crisis, and paying for all the fuel. But again, sell the player. Or stop paying the players like more money than you earn.
What you're talking about there is a logical structure, though, which football doesn't operate within, does it?
No. I mean, every time this comes around, it's funny. Bielsa answered it perfectly at the time. He said while he was at Leeds, he in one of his, probably several of his press conferences, he said that the only way to fix football is for everybody involved to agree to be paid less. And then everything from then, once that's decided, everything from there improves because the amount of greed is reduced and the amount of money that you have to take from the fans goes down. The number of clubs that are trying to pay more than they earn to have a good team goes away, and it just like from there everything gets better. You're saying that you the second stage is you take that money and you put it into producing more good footballers, because the more good footballers there are, the less money you have to pay the few who are any good, and then also there's more because there's supply and demand just means that the wages will go down, and then the football at all levels is better to watch. So everything just begins if we just, if we stopped paying. I mean, Gareth Bale is probably, he's not with us anymore, but in the sport,
he is still around.
On £500,000 a week, it's just it's ludicrous. And the whole game, getting it into this situation where it's decided that £500,000 a week to a footballer is a good idea. Like, Gareth Bale would still be a good footballer if you paid him £50,000 a week, and he'd still be a very rich, good footballer, and nobody would have to pay £2,000 for a season ticket as they do at Tottenham.
It's funny looking at the example of Barcelona, because they are the biggest example out there, aren't they, of like a club that is still trying to spend money on transfers, still paying a huge amount of wages, and everyone's saying, you're completely, you're broke. You're breaking all the financial rules in your league, just stop doing it. But quite apart from the moral argument, which I understand fine, it is worth saying as well, it's not like Bielsa was working for free or was the one who led from the front saying, pay me less.
Well, because that wouldn't have done any good. All that would have done is, he would have been paid less.
That's basically what happens when any celebrity expresses a slightly left-wing opinion, isn't it? People go, well, give all your money away then. That just makes me, that would just make me poorer. It would do nothing to solve the actual problems. I was just going to say, which should be fixed.
Understanding the moral argument as it is, and it's
not even a moral argument. It is literally, it's about the game surviving, because if it keeps doing this, of just raising more money,
I want it to go bankrupt.
and giving it to the players, all that happens is that we just have a bunch of players retiring at 30 who are unfeasibly rich, and that's it.
Yeah, it is an entertainment industry, isn't it? And you will get paid what you can get paid by it. It's the fact that the industry itself is kind of just wanting to throw all that money away, isn't it?
Well, this is it. The industry itself needs to make some decisions about where the money goes.
Well, we are seeing that, though, with the football regulator potentially coming in the UK.
Which Angus Kinnear is, screaming like it's a terrible example of Maoism being imposed upon the game, and that Kinnear's view was actually that if football clubs go bust, it's their own fault and they should just be replaced by better ones.
Although that view was expressed when we were comfortably mid-table in the Premier League, wasn't it? I wonder if
exactly.
rode back on that
well,
a little
now
bit.
He's desperately trying to put 10% on the season tickets to avoid that fate. But maybe better run football. It's the whole principle. Better run football clubs take the place of the badly run football clubs. Some of us, those of us who feel emotionally or with a little bit of soul about our clubs, think perhaps there's a way of not just dispassionately letting them all rot and die just because they can't balance the books in this insane industry. But yeah, the football regulator is one way of doing that, of ensuring that all the clubs are working within their means. Kinnear doesn't like that idea. He'd rather that they just, the market dictated. So that's why I don't think he's particularly somebody to look for sense.
We put the prices up 10% last year, and then another 10% this year, which when compounded is just shy of 21%, which is a lot of increase for a period that has coincided with us being absolute dog shit on the pitch, broadly speaking. And the same people that are now asking us to pay more are the ones that have overseen this shit. It's quite a hard sell, isn't it?
It is a bit. I suppose you can balance it by saying they didn't go up for a lot of years, but then they didn't need to go up for a lot of years, because when did Bates set his, was it 2006? He came in and just went, no, these season ticket prices should be the third most expensive in the whole country, or something ridiculous.
I'm fairly sure the guide to that we've done this week, which is about the glorious John Carver reign, because obviously we've just replaced an interim manager in Scoobs, a caretaker manager, with Javi Gracia, and we wanted to look back on a similar era when John Carver came in, and it wasn't necessarily all that glorious. But I think it was about that time we were talking, weren't we, about £700 season tickets, something crazy like that.
And showing the attendances of 16,500 people there for a
Premier League football, Premier League prices.
He saved Leeds United.
And we paid Premier League prices, but we didn't get Premier League football.
We got John Carver.
And when we got the Premier League football, we were still paying what, but at that point had become prices more aligned with the Championship. So we are down the league. Like Arsenal's cheapest adult is £926.50. Our cheapest is 400, and I can't follow the line, so that's 50-ish.
I mean, our prices are kind of all over the place as well, aren't they? Because they're based on when you got the ticket originally, aren't they? Because you've got your renewal price was always different to someone else, so you might be was
it 2 years that there was? Like,
can't remember.
It was supposed to tier down over the course of 2 years, but then people found when they got to the end of the taper down that it actually didn't revert to the same price as everyone else. It was just kind of frozen at that level, which is confusing, because I've seen, it's only anecdotal evidence, but people are saying on Twitter and on the forums and stuff like that I think I saw one in particular where there's a bloke saying him and his wife, who sit next to each other in adjacent seats, which you would generally imagine to be the case, are paying like 150 quid difference between the two tickets for identical seats because of the renewal and the tapering and then the freezing and God knows. So it feels like it's probably all got a bit messy and could do with tidying up. That's one problem, but it's perhaps a different one to this.
Don't encourage them to make it expensive for everyone, though.
Well, that's it. Leeds, I think, have they have quite a big headache here and quite a problem that is, in one sense, for them is nice to have, but for us who've been on there, the legacy fans, perhaps is a problem. It's also a problem for them. Basically, they've got this 20,000 person waiting list for season tickets who are new people,
which was mentioned in the article as well.
If you don't renew,
these people are waiting, which felt a little bit, was it passive aggressive? I don't know, or was it just a statement of fact?
But from the club's point of view, I wonder what what they're thinking is about that 20,000 person waiting list, because what we don't have at Leeds particularly, although the attendances went up in the Championship, as soon as Gary Monk raised even a whisper of us being a good team, suddenly we were 32,000 in the stadium, and Thomas Christiansen started selling the stadium out, and then Paul Heckingbottom did his best to change things, and then from the moment Bielsa arrived, bang, full stadium. So although we're now 3 years into the Premier League, that's not a stadium full of new generation Premier League fans who've been watching Sky and Match of the Day growing up and have got loads of money in their pocket that they want to spend in an exciting Premier League environment. It's the same old boring bastards who've been watching Leeds for years, hating most of the time, resenting their presence in the stadium, who want to turn up, fold their arms, and if Leeds aren't any good, then they'll moan about it. So, I'm being disparaging about our hardcore. I am one of those people who has come all the way through from 2000, I think was my first season ticket. Basically, there's a lot of people who've been there a long time who are not necessarily the demographic that the club would love to be advertising to, with its new exciting partners who come in and flogging merch to, and flogging drinks to, flogging food to. There's not really a lot of point in putting in a cheese room in the cheese wedge, when I don't think anybody in the cheese wedge would want a cheese room. But who on the season ticket waiting list, who is a new fan, who is a Premier League fan, would be more interested in that kind of future?
Yeah.
And how keen might the club be to get those people into the stadium? It's the whole point of the argument of...
Those are some sweeping generalisations.
No,
but I don't disagree with you either.
I think they're not generalisations. It's more, I think there's a problem for Leeds of how to capitalise on being a Premier League club when they cannot get any new people into the stadium.
I was going to say they need a bigger stadium. It comes back to that. But then again, we've seen a nearly 21% compound rise over the course of 2 years for a stadium that is falling apart, and the facilities are fucking awful.
I mean, on the facilities, like the COP has not changed since I've been in there, to the point where the urinals still have the get your tackle tested, get a free chlamydia test from Leeds Council or whatever it was.
Did you get yours?
All clear, mate. All good. All good. Oh, they're not. I don't think it's available anymore.
Disease free since 2003.
But these are just stickers on the urinal, and they have been there for a decade. Like, just scrape them off. It's just, and to the extent where there's just complete decay in there. Like, do
you want everyone to get chlamydia?
You can probably get them from the bloody cop toilets, to be honest. I wouldn't be touching the taps in there. But like, nothing has improved for your average fan. I know the club have spent money on corporate areas and stuff during this time, and all the West Stand suites have been redone, and the East Stand is obviously now post Bates, the big corporate area. And I understand that is something that needs doing, and those are the people who pay a premium for it. But like, you still can't really get a pint and stuff. It's just really, really shit.
Well, did you see the tweets from Nath from the Brudenell Social Club, who posted photos of him having to go behind the counter inside the stadium to fix the boiler because the staff couldn't serve hot water? This is the situation that we're in, and you're asking for nearly 21% more over the course of 2 years for the same shit.
And when you talk about improvements, since those chlamydia stickers were placed on the urinals, we can go through Bates making himself a nice palace in the East Stand, and then Cellino coming in. Did Cellino move it back to he refurbished it in the East Stand, didn't he? So Cellino redid all that.
Let's call that a party room.
Well, he had. He's the one who put down all the carpets that are like football pitches.
Yeah.
And then that got redone.
Lots of clean surfaces they put in there as well. Lots of.
And then that got redone, and then Andrea Radrizzani came in and moved all that back to the West Stand, so all that got redone and is very nice. So the owners' bits have been done several times in the last decade and a bit. So that's not been a problem. So there's really no, it doesn't seem to be difficult to refurbish a football stadium when the bit that the owner is going to sit in needs some attention, or even doesn't need some attention. But it is the rest of the place that is suffering, and it's all. What I was trying to get at before is it's all this kind of situation that's coming together where the stadium is falling apart. It's not nice, and then you've got all these people who want to come, but you can't get any of them in. None of the kind of the Premier League advantages that the club should be seizing upon to make money in a what you call it a discretionary way, because the season ticket isn't. You have to have one if you want to get to a game now. So it is almost a form of blackmail. If you don't have this, you will never see Leeds United again. Whereas if it is the drinks, the food, that's something you can make a decision on when you go to the stadium. Do I want to buy something? So it's less of a pie tax style situation. But they can't take advantage of any of that because I don't know why. Maybe it's because the
facility is just that the infrastructure does not allow for it, which explains why the 49ers are selling themselves on coming in and basically starting again from scratch.
But it does make you wonder.
Because Kinnear said on our show, didn't he, that it will be the whole stadium gets redone, perhaps with the exception of the East Stand, which will get tarted up.
Yeah, he said we'd probably be starting on planning permission about now, and it's if not.
Well, they might have done something and stopped short of putting the planning permission in because that would bring about plans, wouldn't it? And they probably don't want those to get in the public domain until we've got Premier League status assured and takeover and all that shit.
But even then, improving what's there seems to be something that could have been given some attention that would then justify these things. And it seemed another thing that Angus Kinnear said when he was on the podcast, and it's something that sort of kept recurring as a theme, was he kept talking about how things are very expensive. Like to do that, that would cost a lot of money. One of them was the sight lines in the East Stand, in the lower, that it's still the low fields.
You mean like regrading it?
Yeah, it's still the low fields terracing that they basically bolted seats to in 1993. And so nobody's got any comfortable leg room, and the sight lines are pretty bad, and it's not a comfortable place to sit. It's also the place that's probably going to last the longest in the stadium, because that'll be the last bit that you refurb, because it's the newest bit. And he was saying that they looked into regrading that, and I think he said that it was going to cost something like £4 million, and so it's like that's a lot of money. I think, well, it is, but also you could spend it, and then for as long as the East Stand is there, it's better.
But then, this is not me trying to defend the club's position, but that's an abstract concept you're talking about, and we don't.
It's not an abstract concept. It's improving something that's concrete, literal concrete.
What I mean in the sense that we don't know where else money has been diverted. We don't know what the limits are on the investment of the ownership, do we, up to this point?
Well, exactly. But
I'm just saying it's a concept in the sense that, it probably needs doing, but we don't know what the actual real-world circumstances are that surround it.
Well, we do know that the real-world circumstances are that it's a football club with a very high turnover and a lot of money that could pay £4 million to do something like that, and would have a better stadium in which its fans would be happier and might be more willing to spend more time and spend more money, and it would be a means of and
make the environment better. People will spend more here
and just be happier. And it might be, what is the cost benefit on having football fans having a nice time?
Well, that's it.
In a football stadium.
Angus Skinny who said a few times that Tottenham's match day revenue is like £5 million per game. Well, if you want to increase that, make the place better.
Yeah, exactly.
But the other
and don't just go, well, that would be expensive if we made it better.
But I was going to say the underlying
Spurs
point.
£1 billion.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
Rodrigo was expensive, and the players, Junior Firpo was expensive. It's all expensive. If you're not into expensive things, I don't know what you're doing at a Premier League football club. It all costs ridiculous. I mean, the season tickets are expensive.
Well, I was just going to say, actually, just to bring us back to that point, when you stack up the TV money versus the ticket revenue, it's a drop in the ocean, isn't it? And that's probably the single issue around which you could say, well, did they need to go up by another 10% now? Was there no way of absorbing the costs? Because we know we run a business here. We sell T-shirts and stuff. And all our costs have gone up. Our postage costs have gone up. The cost of printing stuff has gone up. But we've basically absorbed it up to a point. So that's what I meant before when I said you can make the business case for it in terms of pure numbers on a spreadsheet, but it's about what it says, isn't it? In the context of where Leeds United are and the happiness of the fan base.
I mean, to look at it
which they've acknowledged in the statement on the website.
To look at it in a purely businessy way, it does sell out. So
supply and demand.
Loads of people want to come. People will buy one because they want to go see us play Scum and Liverpool and Arsenal next year if we stay up. If they were doing these with a 10% rise, I know they've said about the relegation, but if they were trying to sell season tickets again at the end of the season and we'd gone down, it would be interesting to see what happened and to see what percentage of that 21,000 waiting list evaporates when people go. You do realise this is going to be Reading on a Tuesday, you go
on that. The relegation refund that they've promised. In other words, the 10% will not be applied. I think they've actually made a bit of a rod for their own back with that. It's a well-intentioned gesture that acknowledges the position the club is in, but it does then lend itself to the suggestion that the 10% increase is very much just a choice. So if they're prepared to absorb the cost if we go down, when revenues plummet in the Championship.
But then the other way is that fans are willing to absorb the 10% rise for staying in the Premier League.
Yeah, and the other side to that is that we could get to the summer, if we stay up by the skin of our teeth, whatever it might be, 49ers come in, July the 1st, we've got a few new signings, then suddenly you go, well, do you know what, 10% looks fine. At this particular moment in time, you go, it looks shit.
I think the football in general just has a hard case to keep. Well, it has a hard case to some of us to keep putting the prices up because the game doesn't appreciatively change. It's not like, is the football going to be 10% better?
You're right though. Everything just gets more expensive. Doesn't it? Wages, players, yeah.
But the case that the clubs have is that they can always find somebody to pay it. So it's like if you don't pay it, somebody else will, and that's why they can keep putting prices up and up and up. And they've yet to find. It's strange. They've yet to find the point where prices go so high that they can't fill the stadium anymore. The Premier League is selling out everywhere, every week, even though the prices are astronomical. So people will just keep finding these mugs who will pay ever increasing prices. So from the club's point of view,
mugs? Do you say mugs? Please buy a mug.
Yeah, please buy a mug. From the club's point of view, they don't have a problem.
Have we put the prices of those up by chance?
I don't know. From the club's point of view,
we should hike them by 20%.
From the club's point of view, they don't have a problem because they can just keep charging more and people will keep paying it. But the problem that they have the other way is that they don't seem able to hold on to that money in any sensible way, and they can't find $4 million to regrade part of the stadium to make it better because they've spent it all on a loan fee for a midfielder, and it's just like that part of the game is, and it's an argument with the whole Super League concept at the moment. If you look at and the World Cup as well, the Champions League, the World Cup, they're all great. The World Cup as a sporting spectacle couldn't be better. So what do they want to do for the next one? Change everything so it makes more money,
and then do it every 2 years.
It made billions, but they're like no, and the Champions League. I don't think the Champions League does not make money or does not put on exciting games of football, But they're all like, oh no, we need to just tear this whole thing down. Why? It's to make some more money out of it. It's like, well, you're making billions. No, yeah, but we're giving it all to these 20-year-old kids
and their
who
agents.
can kick a ball and their agents, and so we don't know what to do. And it's just it has that feeling of a bubble going to burst in general.
It has had that feeling for about 20 years, though.
I was just going to say we've reached that point again where we just say just tear it all down, aren't we?
Well, it's more like a just going to be a tremendous act of self-harm at some point, because that's what the Super League and so on was going to be. It's like they've got something really, really good, and it seems like football is growing more determined with every passing season to ruin what they've got that is good in every respect for something that they imagine could be better, when the real sensible way of giving themselves all like a sustainable, rich future. Imagine like if you owned a football club and you didn't have to give all the money to Neymar, you could just keep it. Like, I don't understand what the fucking fascination is with all these football club owners. It's like, I want to make as much money as possible and then give it all to Neymar. Just keep it.
It's an arms race, though, isn't it?
Well, it was a bit like when Chelsea were bought. How much did they pay for them? $4 billion or something?
Yeah.
But you think, but why? They don't make any money.
Well, that's
like it's a weird thing. They have a big turnover, but they don't actually make any money. It's not like going in and buying Apple or something that you go, okay, right, they sell these things, make fucking loads of money everywhere. If you get an Amazon, you kind of think, okay, brilliant, already churning over loads of money. It's like Chelsea is worth money because at some point
it's worth money. It's worth money because it generates revenue, but like it's based on revenue, isn't it? But it's not based on profitability. It's a money pit.
It'll at some point be profitable if they can engineer a position where you start introducing things like super leagues and salary caps, and you can essentially own a brand at some point. The 49ers are probably within this same sphere of thinking as well, but they can think, well, if we can get in now when we can still sort of afford it, because in US sports terms, football clubs are fairly cheap, particularly someone like Leeds who are going to be kind of under the 500 million mark.
I was going to say, if they get the whole thing for like 300 million, as is rumoured, when you factor in the cheaper shares that they got before, plus what they're supposed to be buying this summer, it's about 300 million. And then if they sell it at 1.5 billion in another 10 years' time, then they're laughing, aren't they?
Scum are on sale at 7 billion, aren't they? So Chelsea has been bought at 4, Scum is for sale at 7, and the 49ers are relevant to this because there's the whole question of why do they have to be a consortium? Why can't we just be bought by one kind person? There are very few kind people anymore who can actually afford to buy a Premier League football club. It either has to be a state or a consortium, because nobody just has £4 billion to just buy a football club and just run it themselves. So Todd Bowley will be the front person for a load of other people because they've all had to chip in.
Well, it's like there's Clear Lake, isn't there, which is a financial investment. It's the same as what Leeds are proposing.
And it's being proposed because there is no longer a workable way of buying a football club as an individual anymore. It's just like so it has to be this, because football has inflated itself to the point where there are no more buyers. And the idea that Chelsea have is partly that because NFL clubs are worth and make so much more money than Premier League clubs, so they think they can grow the revenue in the Premier League to match the NFL, which makes far fewer games are played, but the whole thing is just somehow so much bigger in terms of broadcasting is the big thing where there's still loads of growth. But then once they do all that, having bought Chelsea for 4 billion, they can sell it for 8 billion. Scum are already on sale for 7, so it's not even that big a leap. But then the question is, who's going to buy it at 8 billion? You start to run out of buyers, and that's where this whole race was like, let's just make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and more expensive. Just becomes like, well, okay, you've made it the most expensive thing in the world. Now, who is going to buy it off you so you can actually make some money off it? Nobody left.
And that's hopefully when the bubble will burst.
But it is relevant. I think part of that is so the 49ers part in all this, in the kind of the ticketing problems that Leeds have, the state of Elland Road, the demographic shifts, the Premier League future, the broadcasting deals, the value of the club compared to what it could be worth if they wanted to sell it probably within a day of buying it at the price that they're believed to be paying. Why they're a consortium instead of it just being one person, what an NFL experienced owner, because if Parag Marathe is, seriously involved in heading it up, he's very involved with the 49ers. He's a sporting exec as well as the head of the enterprises part. all that stuff is that's where it's all coming into. So it's kind of, I think I've said this before, that we may look back on the shambles that Radritzani's ownership has become in the last 2 years as kind of like a sweet golden age when when the beer was piss and the boilers didn't work, but you could buy a ticket and the ticket prices, and there wasn't a cheese room because we didn't want a cheese room.
I want £7 pints of craft ale in there in my cheese room. That's what I want.
Well, I mean, will it be craft ale or will it just be Foster's at £14 a half? So
Probably.
It's
whoever pays the most money to get their name inside the stadium and on the pumps. Hey, listen,
we are still mid-table Premier League price-wise. It is only fair to say that. It's kind of. Well, we've mainly just been talking about the general shit show of it all. So we're sort of in the middle.
It's kind of
great.
There was an opportunity to be nice with the 10% increase, wasn't there? And just be like, times are hard. We don't need that 10%. Just pay the same next year. But remember how nice we are. Like, really remember the goodwill, which will probably last about 2 minutes. And we'll go like, what we'll do is we'll just have, maybe the executives are all going to take a performance-related pay cut. And we'll sell a couple of players who we don't like, and fine. I mean, what's the revenue? I'm now trying to weigh it up. What's the 10% on the season ticket revenue? I've seen the number.
It's about 1.8 million or something like that.
Right, so it's
1.5.
half what we've agreed to sell Tyler Roberts to QPR for.
Right,
isn't it? So just to sell Tyler. Like, and then people,
coming from you, that is
exactly.
That is
and
really
then,
something.
Well, it's the one thing that might make people warm to him again. If the club said, instead of putting season tickets up 10%, we're selling Tyler Roberts and putting them down 10% because he's making twice as much money off that transfer as we would have done. Everybody would then love Tyler. He'd be a Leeds legend. We'd have to take some of the savings to build a statue, and they could put a little picture of his face on the. Every time you scan your card as you go in, or your phone as you go into the stadium now, Tyler's face could appear on the little digital screen saying thank you for your custom and your long support. So there, solved it. I don't know what I am not running all the Premier League clubs.
The Square Ball Podcast.